Hey guys, good morning, three little ladies.
Good morning, children.
It's great to be back together because it's been a while since we've done it. This is our 20th one. Is that correct?
I think it's our 19th.
Okay.
On the 19th day of February.
Oh, well.
So let's all drink to that one.
Yeah, that's like the universe is speaking to us.
Well, I'm excited because I understand that some information about the election has come to light, and you've done some research on that, Catherine. So yeah. I'm here and ready to learn.
All right. So, Juanita, you want to do a quick rundown on the upcoming meetings for the city government?
Sure. Well, one of the reasons that we're doing this is because it's really so important, to know what's going on completely. And the best way to do that is to either attend these meetings or go on the Lake Wales Florida.gov website and live stream them. You can listen to them at home. Sometimes I listen to them while I'm doing the dishes, So anyway, we've got a planning and zoning board meeting coming up on Tuesday, February 25th at 5:30. We have a city commission workshop Wednesday, February 26th at 2:00. Those are very interesting because they actually discuss those items among themselves that they will then vote on at the regular commission meeting. And they don't discuss it as much at the commission meeting. So that's a really important thing to go to. Unfortunately, you don't have any input there, though, but you certainly can learn a lot. There's also a regular city commission meeting then the next week on Tuesday, March 4th at 6:00. And they all take place at the Municipal Administration Building, and that's 201 West Central Avenue. There are no agendas yet, but I think the agendas, Charlene, did they come out within 24 hours before, or how does that work?
For the Tuesday meetings, whether it be CRA or City Commission or Planning and Zoning, they all come out Friday at 4:00 the previous week. But for the workshop meeting on Wednesdays, they don't come out until 8:00 the morning of the meeting. So we don't have any information about a CRA meeting yet, but they're always held on the second Tuesdays. So that's coming up a little bit in the future.
And I noticed that it's important if you're going to download the agenda to kind of wait until the last minute because they do some changes sometimes. They'll edit it. So if you went and you copied, what was there on Friday night, on Monday afternoon, it might be a little bit different. They may have added something or even taken.
They're not supposed to. They're not supposed to add or subtract anything. But sometimes they do subtract. Yeah.
They fix it, right? They put a new one.
Well, sometimes if they're not going to cover something, they'll take it off, or they'll say it's
Yeah, say it's postponed or something.
Yeah, something like that. And the most important thing is the upcoming city election for mayor, which is going to take place on April 1st with vote by mail coming out quite a bit earlier. Sometimes, seems like it comes out 4 or 5 weeks before the election. So it's between the current incumbent city mayor, Jack Hilligoss, and a previous city commissioner, Curtis Gibson.
Yes. Now I have a copy of the ballot with me, but I'm not sure you can see it. You can.
Yeah, see, it says Curtis Gibson and Jack Hilligoss.
When you bend it, it shows better. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
And it also shows the charter amendment that's on there that we're going to talk about. Probably, we're very supportive of it. It's a big yes for that charter amendment, but we're going to have a separate CLL.
Well, I think we should just briefly tell people what it means. It simply means that in a situation where there are more than 2 people running, it means that maybe nobody will get a majority. And in that case,
a majority means 50% plus 1.
Yes. And if that happens, then they have to have a runoff. The way the law is now, we just go with whoever has the plurality rather than the majority. So as you said, it's important to vote yes on this because it makes sure that we always have commissioners who have won a majority of the voters. Jack Hilligoss, our current mayor, did not get a majority in his election, and also Commissioner Williams did not get a majority in his elections. The other three did because they only had one opponent.
Yeah, well, when you have a three-way race, you can win the election with theoretically 33% of the vote or something, or even less, depending on how many votes the other people get.
Yes.
So it creates a problem of having a good, healthy election. Unless you have only two people, then it can really be a person can come in and be a real spoiler in the election, and that's what we want to. And I think we get better candidates for our city seats when we have that runoff.
Yes.
And that's a nonpartisan reflection. I think that all the city commissioners voted to support that amendment.
Yes. Unfortunately, they didn't change the one part of our election law that says if there's a tie, they have to toss a coin. And I thought they were going to change that for this particular amendment, but they didn't. So we're still stuck with a toss of the coin if there should be a tie. Well, we don't want a tie, people. Get out and vote.
There's an important thing, though, and that's that if you want to vote by mail, you need to call the supervisor of election. Make sure that you have a request in for that because it is not going from year to year. If you voted by mail last year, it does not mean that you are going to be getting a ballot in your mailbox this year. So
you can do it online also.
Well, it used to be before they changed the law that your vote by mail status was there for several years. And now they're doing it election and I don't even know what that means, but it means that if you want to get a vote by mail ballot, you need to make sure that you're signed up and you call. I tell you can call the supervisor of elections office. It's 86. Yeah, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
All right, it's 863-534-5888.
Yes, 863-534-5888, and is the Polk County, Florida, because there's a lot of Polk counties, supervisor election office.
It's another thing too. I know it seems like everyone should know this, but everyone seems to not realize it. You have to be a city resident. Some people live like right outside the boundaries and they don't realize that they can't vote in a city election. And they're surprised when they come to the polls. I have a couple of friends who do it once.
And not many of our voters in Lake Wales vote. So sometimes these elections are decided by, we had our last one, it came down to literally about 1 or 2 votes on that last election with, I guess it was Daniel Williams, Brandon Alvarado, and I forget the woman.
Crystal Higgins, I think.
Crystal Higgins, yeah. It was a 3-way race, and it came down to literally a couple of votes. So your votes in these cities' elections are so important.
But something else that Juanita mentioned, the fact that you can't vote if you live outside the city limits, but you can influence friends that you have who live in the city limits because whatever the city decisions are made affect many people who live outside the city limits. The elections are very important to them and they need to express it to their friends in the city.
Plus, it might affect don't they have water? Their water might come from Lake Wales.
Yeah, and it's important for people to know that they can come to the city commission meetings and they can speak. Yes. I know they were trying to eliminate that, but that's against the law. And so we were able to, a couple of years ago, to get them to clarify that people from outside of the city limits are able to come in and engage in speaking at our city.
Yeah. And I think we should point out that it was first and foremost the current mayor who was attempting to limit those voting rights. And some of the other commissioners jumped on board with him at some point.
Mhm.
But it was the discovery or the recovery of the state law by an attorney that Catherine found, who made it clear that they were acting outside of the state law and that they could not do what they wanted to do. That was a big story back then, wasn't it, ladies?
Yes, and they did see a swell of anger from people who didn't think that that was right, that they should be able to express their opinion because they were getting services from the city. And they, like you said, nearby residents, even though they're not in the city, are affected very much by everything that's going on in the city.
Well, let's get down to the meat of why we're here today.
Okay.
And I think that, I guess a lot of us have been sort of amazed at some of the number of signs, fancy mailings, and text messages that our current mayor is receiving for his campaign. And I wanted to just talk. We're like, the name of our segment today is, where is all this money coming from? So
Where is it coming from?
well, the first thing I wanted to bring up is the first thing we saw was a door hanger for Jack Hilligoss. And if anybody got these door hangers, on the very bottom, you look for who paid for those items. And the first door hanger says it was paid for and approved by Jack Hilligoss' campaign. And so that means that Jack paid for it through his campaign bank account. And did you want to talk about how that you find out who is contributing to these campaigns, Charlene?
Oh, yes. You can find this information by doing a public records request with the city clerk, Jennifer Nanick. You can do it through the city website, or through the city website. And all you do is say you want all the current financial records for the two candidates who are running. At this point, there's only one financial report available, and that's the original one that was submitted by the Hilligoss campaign. The next time any financial reports are due are the end of this month, February 28th. But they're not actually, that's the reporting period that ends on the 28th. I think it's not due actually into the city to Jennifer Nanick until March the 7th. But it's important to get that. I read, we've all read the first one from Hilligoss, and we were just amazed to see that those contributors are all pretty much the wealthy people in the city, developers and other people. The City Alexander, the Oakley family. It's people with money. It's not people like us making the little $50 and $100 contributions. And it'll be interesting to see at the end of this month the difference between the mayor, the two candidate campaigns. So remember,
when a person is running for an office like this, they have to submit these financial reports to either, depending on what they're running for, but for city elections, they submit them to the city clerk. And those are kept on record so that people like us can see them. And those include donations and expenditures that are made in the campaign, so that you can see what people are, who they're getting their money for and what they're spending it on. But interestingly, do you want to show that these new flyers that we're seeing for Jack, Juanita?
I think Juanita has them.
I believe at first I got this one. Okay.
No, that's the second one.
Is that the second one?
Yeah, that is the second one.
But I also got this one.
That's the first one.
That's the first one. That one came out around February 7th.
On the back.
And then we got this other huge one a couple of days ago. And also, I understand I haven't been getting any text messages.
I get text messages twice. Now, the first one I did not save, but the second one I did. And it has the same information basically that's on these, but it says Juanita. Like it's obviously very sophisticated the way it's being done. It's not just something that's sent out there I shouldn't say anonymously, but it makes it feel very personal. They're telling me this, right? And it is funded by the same.
It's funded by the same group that did the flyer, right?
Right.
Yes.
The same group. I got two of those.
Yeah. If you look on these flyers, it says FSC and it gives an address.
And you hold it up in front of you so people can see exactly where it is. Yeah. Right where her thumb is. That is that tells you who's funding.
This actually says sponsored by Floridians for Senior Care.
Okay. So we're like, okay, so where is this big money coming from? And so I started doing a little digging, and I found out that if you go to the Florida Division of Elections site, and then you go in there and you look under campaign finance, you find these things called political committees. This is called a PAC, Political Action Committee. And these things are what people refer to as dark money, because these PACs can come in and spend vast amounts of money on these campaigns. And it's very difficult to see where their money is coming from and where their money is being spent. And supposedly, if they do not coordinate their efforts with the candidate, which that becomes very speculative, then they can spend whatever they want to, and there's really no control over these people. So this PAC that is actually registered to a company, it's a big political consulting company over in Tampa who do a lot of things in the state of Florida. These people have gazillions of these little PACs where they squirrel away money from big donors all over the place. Like in this particular PAC, it was started in 2021. $150,000 was put in there by a corporation from New York State that I could not track. And then in 2022, $125,000 was put in there by the Florida Healthcare Association. And that is a company or a not-for-profit that's supposed to be lobbying for issues related to assisted care facilities. A matter of fact, this PAC, Floridians for Senior Care, said that their purpose is healthcare.
Now, didn't you uncover something called SimWins or WinSims? That's basically a Republican group that works to elect Republicans across the state. Is that
correct? This address is actually at this political consulting firm. It's called SimWin. It is run by a guy named Anthony Petticini and Thomas Piccolo. Thomas Piccolo is actually the husband of our state representative that's from up near Haines City, Josie Tomcow. And these guys have been going at it for a long time in the state of Florida, and they're known for their hard-knuckle political campaign tactics. A matter of fact, they got they've been winning, but they had some big losses in the last election cycle in August in the primary and in November of last year over in Manatee County and Sarasota County, because people found out that these guys were supporting candidates that were very supportive of big development. And people are starting to get really freaked out by the vast amount of development that is just coming down in our head because we can't handle it. Traffic is out of control. Our schools are lagging behind.
Water is going to become an issue.
Correct.
And this is really very scurrilous because it's sponsored by Floridians for Senior Care. When I first saw that, I thought, they're going to be putting up some facilities for seniors around here. And I don't remember Jack ever talking about anything like that, right? And because there are so many seniors here, it makes you feel when you first see it like, oh, it's a good thing. But actually, it has nothing to do with senior care. It's definitely not a grassroots movement of people, of seniors.
Yeah.
It's also
Okay.
interesting because these PACs, there's this one company, I don't know if y'all follow Billy Townsend. He writes sort of a hard-hitting blog here in Polk County, and he always he found one of these kind of companies sort of similar to this one Simwin up in the Panhandle. They had like 60 to 70 of these PACs where they had squirreled away all this money, and they actually pass money between the different PACs to the point that you can't tell where the money came. They, instead of saying, like, we did a flyer for Jack Hilligoss's campaign, they just go printing. So you can't tell what they spent the money on, and you can't tell where the money came from. That's why they call it dark money.
And you have to ask why. Why are they so interested in Jack Hilligoss? I'm sure they didn't just pick his name out of a hat. They're interested for a reason, and we need to know that.
His expenditures will never show up on his financial disclosure forms. When they're doing their campaigns, first of all, the reporting periods are long, but as they come up to the election, they get shorter and shorter. And then by a few days before the election, you pretty much know everyone that's contributed to them and everything they've spent. But these PACs only have to report quarterly. So we will not even know who contributed to this PAC, or if there was even an expenditure that looks like these flyers. It won't say Jack Hilligoss flyers on their reports. We will not know that until after the election is over and done with.
Okay, now here's another little interesting part of this story. The picture that was on the first flyer that Juanita held up was, I think, Hilligoss in a red plaid shirt. That picture, we checked with the city clerk on it, and we learned that was a picture that was originally submitted by Jack to the city back when he first became mayor. So it was a picture of his, and he gave it to the city. So how did it make it onto a flyer of which he denies all knowledge? He denied all knowledge of this flyer at a recent little special city commission meeting, and yet there's a picture on it they had to have gotten from either him or somebody at the city, which would be illegal for that PAC to have done. So I have great difficulty managing to believe Jack when he says that he had no involvement with this PAC. And that's something important.
The lady doth protest too much. Interesting. But anyway, the interesting thing is, when people get these things, we need to look at where the money is coming from.
Mm-hmm. And Catherine, people think that, wow, he's got some campaign going here. People must really be working hard for him. Look at all the things that are coming through the mail. That's what you call a grassroots campaign. There's nothing grassroots about this. This is not people sitting over at somebody's house writing postcards and, really getting behind a candidate. This is dark money coming from elusive places for reasons unknown, but reasons that could be suspected.
And again, that's why they call it dark money. We have no earthly idea who's providing it and why it's being provided.
And don't you think it's sad that dark money has been brought into a political campaign in little old Lake Wales, which is kind of quaint. It used to be kind of quaint and pure and happy like, and you just don't think of that kind of thing happening here, but
I remember a number of years ago when nobody spent any money on campaigns, and then it got to be where you could spend $1,000. Well, Jack's first report had $8,000 on it.
I thought it was 13,000.
No, I think it was 8 something.
5, I think.
But it was, like you said, it was from primarily, I don't know, it was about 8 or 9 people provided that $8,000. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these people don't even live inside our city. So the thing is, people need to be aware. People need to be savvy when they're looking at this stuff. and I think that we need to know that these, the first time we saw these PACs was actually in the election with Carol Gillespie, who we did elect, and Danny Krieger, because this guy, Thomas Piccolo, he was sending out through another PAC. It was called Building a Brighter Future for Florida. And that PAC still exists. As a matter of fact, at least at this time being, that PAC has a lot more money in it than the PAC, those Floridians for Senior Care. It's got over $1 million in that PAC, and they made a payment from that PAC to SimWin. So I'm assuming that could be that SimWin is paying itself for the stuff that they're doing for Jack.
Mm-hmm.
What a mess, huh?
Yes.
What a mess.
May I just take us off this topic for one little bit, because I totally forgot back when we were talking about the election that I needed to announce a candidate forum. There is going to be a candidate forum, and both candidates, Hilligoss and Gibson, have been invited. It will take place on March the 10th, which is a Monday at 5:30 at the Women's Club. And Juanita, what's the address of the Women's Club?
Oh my goodness. I don't have it offhand, but it's right on the corner of
Park, right by the library.
I don't want to put a wrong number out there, but it's right. It's right in back of the library. It's on
and on the corner of Park and Scenic, right?
Almost Scenic. There's that little library street that goes near the library. It's on that corner. It's very easy to find. It really is.
Yeah.
But who's
5:30,
Charlene?
5:30. Everybody's invited, and everybody who comes will have an opportunity to ask a question of either or both of the candidates if you want to. So please come and educate yourself on the positions of these candidates.
And please say who is sponsoring it.
It is being sponsored by the American Association of University Women and the Women's Club of Lake Wales. Together, they will be producing this candidate forum. It'll be fun. Come.
Well, I think we can tie this up a little bit. We just wanted to kind of get out there and kind of let people understand what's going on here from the standpoint of money. And I encourage people to ask for Curtis Gibson's financials as well and take a look at those. So reminder, the city election is coming up on April 1st. And we also have a lot of other issues that are going on in the city, that I think we need to discuss in a little more detail. So we'll probably have a couple of other three little ladies coming out pretty soon. We need to probably do one on the Parkway, the Central Polk Parkway that's being discussed about being put through Lake Wales. I know there's been a lot of discussion about the impact to Bach Tower Gardens, but we're all in the crosshairs of this big new parkway that they're talking about putting in town. So we wanted to do maybe one on that. And I think we need to do one on that referenda that we were talking about, Charlene, a little
the
more.
Amendment.
I'm sorry, amendment. Yes.
Yeah. And also, there are little rumors going around now about favorable things going on with regard to interviews staged at BizLink with the mayor, and that possibly Curtis Gibson was denied an interview through that venue. We're trying to get the facts out about it. So we're not in a position to elaborate on it right now, but I think it's something that we probably need to touch on in the future.
By the time we get together again, who knows what we will have to talk about, because this doesn't seem like a just, normal type election.
Right. Well, it's just always something exciting, and it's great being with you guys. I think, unless you have something else, we're coming up on our end of our show here, but we're so glad to be back. And we hope that all of y'all will benefit from a little bit of this in-depth research that we've been doing.
And many thanks to you, Catherine, for delving into that dark money stuff, because that's hard to follow, I know. So,
Well, that's kind of stuff I love. I think I'm a sleuth, you know, I would have been a good like detective or something.
yeah.
I know I learned a lot from it, and I'm sure other people did too, right? Because I wasn't sure. I mean, I had heard the term dark money, but I didn't know in depth what you just told us today. So thank you.
Well, the truth of the matter is this thing is even deeper and darker than we portrayed, you know, but it's hard to get into that at this level.
It's elusive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, our 30 minutes have ended. So
Okay, bye-bye.
bye.